Hello everyone, so welcome to the Garden of Eden. We're going to do some predictions and it might be some energy guidance or I might leave it to later. I hope you're all well, I hope you're all blessed. So one of the things that I was getting coming through is actually in the UK we will see more and more of the Arab countries, and this will probably be the Gulf countries that have the money that take over, like hotels, football clubs, sport leads. I think that is on the rise. That's not a bad thing. That means money is getting invested. But at the same time, you know, maybe some won't like it because it's not English, it's not UK millionaires, billionaires holding that. I do want to say that I also unfortunately see that because of the issues, and this won't only be the UK, but the UK might start, because of the issues with illegal immigration and the government issues, that there will be attacks on Muslims, on Islam, and some of these are outright just wrong because Islam is actually a religion of peace. Now, if you've been to um, an Arab country, or I can't talk about Asian, I've not been to. So you might step into a lift or someone enters a lift and they will say salam, and you either say wa alaikum salam or salam. And it's peace be with you, and you return it with peace be with you. Now, in the beginning, you think, why are they saying that? You know, when we're younger, it might be like, but don't we say that to the dead or whatever, or just really weird. But if you think about it in life, one of the most important things that we find is that we are at peace, inner and outer, our external worlds at peace, our inner worlds at peace, and it's one of the most important things. So, because of man interpreting things they want to, and then people calling these Muslims as extremists. I don't think it's extremist. Extremist is, for example, Muslims go to the mosque on Friday, is that they go 5 times a day, is that they start doing, excessive to the extreme. Whereas this is actually just corruption, people that use it as terrorism. Disclaimer, this for intent purposes only. So I see a massive backlash on Muslims, and obviously it's going to be innocent, peaceful Muslims that follow the religion, and probably most don't necessarily follow the religion, but it's their foundation of their roots. It's what their mom or their dad or whoever religious was identified was the religion. So I do see that. I see it could be a civil war, and I see other countries. I see the UK and Europe commencing, and this is because they've not handled stuff in the right way. But it's a bit saddening to see. And all religions, if a man wants to use it to the extent to misinterpret it, then they can do. A lot is coming out, a lot of information is coming out. We know that the digital ID is going to get accelerated. New financial system is going to be upon us. It's going to cause chaos. And they are going to cause chaos as well. So we buy into it, and so we're forced into it, if that makes sense, where they make this chaos. I think there's a shape shifting going on. There's puppets controlled that are now like soulless, and some of us might be able to see that. In March, April, I predict an assassin or an assassin attempt. I also wanted to say last year, maybe it was October or November predictions, I was talking about an actor that I believe would pass away. Now, his name is Van something, and if you know Dawson's Creek, you might have heard that the actor just passed away maybe last week from cancer. He was only 48. Quite sad. And this was the actor, so that's one thing. And last year there was more than one actor. There was an older guy called Lee and someone else. So, I just want to put that I've identified that one that was coming up. I do want to say I see there's another actor that will perish. And this actor, and there could be two. One that I want to talk about is um the way I see it is that his 3D self is holding on and his soul is staying put because there's a fear of him letting go of this earth. He's not mentally there, so now you know it's a he, and I will tell you when it happens, and again I will identify it. I don't like to say names, unfortunately. Maybe some would say that because I don't like to put it out there. So I do see that, and there could be another actor coming up shortly, very soon. Um, on that note, I also do want to say that I might do a Nancy reading later, which will probably be very early hours UK time, just because I think that this is coming to an end, and by the 17th of February, end of 17th of February US time, they need to have this closed out, and there are certain risks if they don't. And one of the risks is behind the scenes, which I've mentioned on my community page, but I give that date. I also gave the 13th of Friday that there's going to be some kind of breakthrough. And it seems like she's right under them, like under where they're searching. Like she's not far. She's just within a couple of miles. I don't know if they're going too far out, or I think she's within in a 5 mile radius. I'm not sure if they're trying to focus on the Mexican side, like what do you call those gang kind of things? What do you call it? Here we go. When words are failing me again. Not gangs, mafia, right? So I don't know if that's what they're trying to do. But it seems they're going that way. But I'll come back to that anyway. I do want to say that something that was coming through to me is that overall, we have to remember that karma is never forgotten. Karma may be delayed for people, but karma is never forgotten. And this came to me from the ruler of karma. So I believe that's the energy and the ruling planet of karma. Never forgets, it might delay. And that's for everything. And yeah, if I'm tying it in with Nancy, I believe justice will be served. I do think that within the Epstein files, I'm going to do a separate reading on Epstein because I've got some questions for the cards that I want to confirm, is that there will be some false information or gapped information, masked information to cause a masking, but to also cause a confusion, a misunderstanding, to trip one up a little bit. So I do see that occurring as well. But a plethora of information is going to be coming out this week. And I think probably because we're tied up with Nancy, that we're not seeing everything that's coming out. I do think that there's going to be not police intelligence, like radaring on his island and certain key locations where the to look for bodies and remains. This is so gross that this was so covered up for how many years. Like I feel like it's just unreal. I do think that Pam Bondi this year might risk being out of her position. The other thing I've mentioned before is the border of Poland. We might see military action or military presence, let's say. Not action can scare you, presence, and that's because Russia is trying to do some military presence there, but not in the country, and it's sometime later this year. I've mentioned before about our internet, our web is changing, applications that we use, it's all going to change how we're going to use the web, the internet. So I do want to bring that up because that is going to be coming through. I might do a reading on Lily and Jack Sullivan. I did get something come through on Dylan Eela as well, because I was trying to rack my brains on who could fit this archetype, if you want. and I want to pull cards. The problem is sometimes when I doubt the cards, then they are like, you know, it shouldn't be. Um, the I see that there's a travel company or a travel agent in the UK that is going to come under scrutiny. And this is because at the back end, they've been hosting or having sponsors or tied agreements with hotels and restaurants that are not clean. So I think there's going to be a tie of maybe poison cases, deaths, illnesses of a certain of tourists from the UK going abroad that use this travel agency or company. I've just realised that I could be speaking quite fast, so I apologise for that. Just done all those predictions within a matter of 10 minutes. I see more limitations on freedom of speech, especially around exposing information, um, even on um, limitations on what is exposed or discussed in terms of transgender, the LGBTQ, the additional initials on there that could be put in place. And I do see Australia narrowing down on this as well. I don't know if they're trying to or not. I do also see with Australia that there's a party that's gonna get favour, but the person leading the party might be feared and is not going to be favoured. So there's something around that, and I don't know what's happening politically, but Australia can let me know. Around those limitations that I mentioned in various countries around the world, and it's going to be an energy anyway, and in Australia, it'll be okay. It'll rebalance, I believe, in a couple of years' time. I do want to say a little bit on the weather, and I think people prior to Nancy was worried about Greenland. Okay. So with that, I do want to say that, what was I going to say? Duck will try on Greenland, which he is, but there's also another country that's got their eyes on Greenland, and it's for the same reason that Duck wants it. I've gone into those reasons in a previous prediction. You can check that out, and the risk of what could end up in a bit of a tension from both sides, not the other country, from Greenland and Duck and their misunderstandings. I've also discussed Iran around that as well. We're going to see this year where wars and conflicts are used as a distraction and major stuff, and we're going to recognize some of them. Some of them when there's a lot of people that are not going to see them as distractions, but that is going to be a theme. I've said this before, the people are like waiting for the glass to shatter, like collectively, politically, financially. But it's not now that it's going to totally break or shatter. And as I record this in a couple of hours, you probably see a poll about the new world. See if any of those statements resonate and which one would you say resonate for our current times. But we're there, like 75%. I think Russia is going to continue on its agenda with Ukraine. But if you saw my last reading on these things, I said it's about endurance for them because they're getting tired. It's not going to end now, and I think it will take some of Ukraine. And at certain times, this whole saga is going to be used as a distraction, which is horrible to say because there's people involved. The weather. With the weather, now some of this could have occurred or could be coming up because some of these I've had noted from the 6th of Jan. In the west of the US, I see that during this year there is going to be a lot of heat, flooding, and I do think if you've got farmers in that area, and in the south, they might suffer. Okay, I do see some farmers suffering southern areas like Louisiana and in the northern areas like maybe Michigan, if I've got that right. California, LA, there is, and some of San Francisco, there is going to be some earthquakes, fires. Portland, flooding. There's a state not far from it, is it? Begins with O. Oregon. Oregon. Yeah. Heat and some flooding could come up this year. Canada, I think you're going to see some harsh weather, and I believe a member has said about how harsh it is at the moment. Italy, I mentioned that I think there could be an earthquake rumble over there, and I do think that that is still a potential. Asia, we're looking at monsoons for there and typhoons, and I think there could be food insurance that gets implicated and affected. Europe, there's going to be some drought energy, and this was one of the things that I wanted to cover in the next reading, that, put some water aside. I will go through that. The other thing that I wanted to mention around that is maybe get some tin food, because inflation and food costs could increase. So, tin food lasts. So it's something if you wish to stock up on. And I will go into that in the next one as well, because it's around the energy. I think markets that are in luxury brands, real estate, commercial real estate, media tech, some are going to struggle, and some are going to see a loss. So that I do see coming. I think there's going to be an increase in wheat or agricultural stuff around wheat, and new foods are going to be coming up. New foods around wheat and those kind of anything like wheat, around those things, and it could be news that comes up that's good or bad around these ingredients, something around that. So the year may have started quite heavy, and in general we're looking at markets struggling, and markets are going to struggle to understand and react to the financial element of the movement, because financially it's not stable, and there's going to be sudden highs and lows, and markets, like I mentioned, that will struggle and see some kind of loss. The currency stress around the world, we're going to see the tech sector unstable, and I think I've mentioned that before, so you're aware of that. We're seeing people that are going to be reacting emotionally, and people that are going to feel the need to step up and act. We're going to see confusion amplified, but that will fizzle out as things become more clearer. But people don't know what to believe, because rumours are getting increased, and headlines and news are just drilling, and causing people to go in chaos and get addicted to certain cases, stories, and what they want to let out, and what they want to program you to get addicted to in order to cover for other stuff. I will go into a little bit more on the politics side of stuff in the next one. I want to say that I don't like to say these, but I think there's going to be another incident similar to the Kirk incident, but this has a female involved. I've mentioned the actors. I also see a legal battle for a singer on their singing, writing rights. There's a legal battle around that, and I don't know if they get cheated or what happens, something around that. There's going to be a horrific, sudden car crash, exposure, unsubscribing, not from their choice, of a person, a famous person that we know. Now, when we say famous person, it could be anyone. It could be a sports person that I don't really know their name. But, yeah. I also think there's going to be a demise of a singer who's not old. yeah. And actually, they're quite a good soul. Their external image might not give that, but if you maybe see an interview or hear the lyrics, you might feel that. There is also going to be, I've just lost that download that was additional, hang on a sec. I think later in the year there's going to be a perish of an old school musician, rock star. This could be Beatles. It could be, what's the other one? There's Beatles, there's someone else. There's that there. What's the other bands? What's wrong with me? Okay. One thing that I did want to add, and I'm gonna do a video that's called "Is this relevant to our time?" or something like that, which might touch base on this. But I want you to think and let me know what you think of what I'm going to present to you. But in general, I want to say for this video, not all UFOs, aliens, ETs are going to be your friend. Not all of them do we understand what they're going to be here for, if they are that. So some people might run to them thinking they're extraterrestrial, they're here to support us, they're angelic. Maybe it's best to leave that thing, the UFO, whatever you might come in contact with, alone. Okay. Not all are going to be benefic, and not all, even if they're not malefic. So I said not all are going to be benefic, of an advantage, of a positive. But if some are, it doesn't mean that they're malefic, that they're bad either. But we're not going to understand them, and so that could, become a malefic energy, triggering. That's not to scare anyone, but I feel like they're being put in an image that are going to be your friend. What is that E.T.? I think it's called the E.T. movie, where he touches his friend and stuff. I've said about the island of Epi and the scanning radar focusing to find bodies. I think I mentioned in the last one about a ship sinking. Okay. I think we might see a airborne spread of a virus, but I see it particularly, it's not going to go spread global, so don't think like how we were, whatever that was. Asia, African areas, and it could include Asian Pacific, like Australia. But I think March time is a higher risk than Feb on this, but let's put it in there. So you can see that there's mixed bag predictions here. So going back to what I would recommend is storage of water due to water influences. It could be drought, it could be anything. It's just a precaution, right? For this February time, and especially mid-February, for the next couple of weeks. I mean, some places don't drink from the tap, so they've always got bottled water in. So just make sure you have enough. I'm not saying it's weeks, but it could be a couple of days that there's something wrong with the water or something like that. And it's not going to be all over the world, obviously. I think, from now we're going to see some agreements possibly come up in the Middle East region, in the Arab region, Russia. And I think there's going to be also either agreement of alliances or enemies that are, coming to the forefront. There is a leader that's going to be in focus, okay? So the countries surrounding that is going to come up in the news. We may not see it come up shortly, but they are going to be in the focus. That's the Arab countries. The leaders around these countries are going to be coming into focus. Like I said, just because of the rise of inflation, maybe March time, you might want to get some more tinned stuff. There could be a risk of earthquakes in Africa regions, Asian Pacific, Turkey, Syria, and possibly even Greece, along with the places I've already mentioned in this and the prior. Unfortunately, with Duck, I see that sometimes his communication is going to fail him right now, and I'm not sure why, but normally he's very convincing. He's very, by the way, he's got a bit of a snarky, funny side to him, hasn't he? Or he doesn't mean he's not snarky, but he'll say something and he's just like, doesn't laugh, but it's like you wouldn't expect him to say it. Like, I don't know what he said last time, but he's not saying it to make fun. He's just like, it's more so, it's funny that you say that kind of comment that he says to people. But it's not as whatever it's like he sways in his communication. He's not on point as he normally is, not as convincing. This might get noticed, or you might notice it having seen this, so that could come up sometime this year. I think I've mentioned in the past he needs to look after his health around circulation. I believe Canada is coming to the realization on how much it has depended on the USA. And I think if the leadership wants its own image, it needs to move away, but in a very diplomatic, sensitive way as well. Real estate in Canada, I think the prices are what's a trouble in Canada, or upsetting Canadians. I'm not sure about this. It's not good, it's high, and I think that is the energy I get for internal dissatisfaction. And obviously I can stand corrected and you can correct me. You're going to see a movement of leaders that are really hungry for status and recognition, but forced action is not good for them to do right now and over the next 3 weeks, I would say. Right now, it's not a good idea, but we're going to see quite a lot of rebelling against authority, and I don't recommend it. Not that I recommend it in general, but the energy doesn't serve in a great way right now to do that. Lastly, as I record this, the solar eclipse will be coming up in Aquarius. Some will say it's a strong one, some will say it's a partial one, it's not strong, and it's coming from, the Arctic upwards, so it's not intense on our lands. But I do think that the 20th of Feb is something about it must be a reset, okay? I've heard astrologers say about the Saturn Neptune at 0 degrees, but I haven't really heard them say it being a total reset, and I do think that there is some kind of reset there. Get everything out of my 4th and 10th house. It's been absolute nightmare and hell. I don't know if any of you are happy for those planets to move. I did mention in my last predictions of February that the 27th we need to look out for, okay? Because I don't like to mention the obvious, like the 17th, the 20th, but yeah, the 27th. So I'm not sure that is a date that is coming through, give or take. Again, I want to emphasize looking after our nervous system, looking after ourselves as energy gains momentum. Foundations that were built seem to rumble, or that we saw built, or that built us up, let's say, seem to rumble. People who are anchors for us, or who we see were our solid ground and tested and never shaken, are now tested and somewhat shaken as they become not certain of their own path. And this is even a energy we will see in leaders. Things can be flimsy right now, but it's not going to last. Even the Epstein, some names may surprise us. Some names may have been role models, may have been gurus, that we now see are among the corrupt and directionless people. So that means there's less idealism and idealization for those individuals as we previously had. And although now we will want to stand up and act, like I said, we may be tested how solid we actually are in the energies that are coming up. There are bizarre situations that we may see, and it could be like, a massive drop in Bitcoin. Some find it a financial movement that is a bit bizarre. I think I mentioned this in the last predictions. Many of us are going to be reflecting on the spiritual journey, but don't misrepresent intentions, okay? Dreams could be quite vivid. Sleep could be an issue in these few days, couple of weeks. Careful about gossip, okay? We really need to be careful on social media. Some of us might feel really foggy or misinterpret others during this time. So just put that in your mind. Vehicles and cars, anticipate transport. Really look into it. Don't be like, I always book this train, I always go down this road. Just look at the weather, look at stuff, have a think about it. But it's okay. I don't want to fear anyone, but it's, just a thought for this week, basically. This is all before we go through imagination and action to get tangible outcomes. It's it's the energy we're heading into. So let me rephrase that. Before, we were going through the imagination, but maybe we were not able to take the action that was required, the action we wanted to take, and to put it into translated, tangible outcomes that we actually seeked. Okay. And this could also be down to several things. Don't forget, we were in the Chinese year of the snake. My God. We're going into the fire horse now, and that fire horse is the first time in 60 years. This week that I'm talking about, with the solar eclipse week. So that also helps, as well as the Aries energy coming out of the Pisces energy. The next 13 to 15 years, I would say, I think we're going to hear a bit more around mental health, dementia, Alzheimer's, increase in possibly strokes, but we'll also have massive breakthroughs around mental health as well. And when I say mental health, it's so hard now to not get away from people thinking of depression and all that other stuff, but mental health diseases as well. Iran and the USA, the heat will ramp up, okay? Believing in force, the US becomes less patient, and warnings can turn into conditions. I don't think there's going to be a full-scale war across the world or with any country in Feb. Not a full-scale war. But there's going to be like short, forcible action to possibly make Iran surrender as soon as possible. Iran sees the pressure and sees it has no options, so feels defensive, feels constrained, tied, especially adding the internal fear that it has. But then the action to defend and protect itself is seen as a warning to the opposer and may escalate a move from the opposition. But Iran must stand up and defend itself because of its internal issue on the country. And this can be in 2026, but there's a flashpoint challenge for the whole of the Middle East region. We may see rumbles, like I just mentioned, in the Middle East, but I think we're going to see an impact on crude oil and supply and price of oil in 2026. So let's see, will anything be misinterpreted, misread during this period? I'm going to leave some of the 2026 predictions for my next predictions. I hope you enjoyed this. I did wanted to give out some of the energies that we might be feeling collectively, individually, and look out for the next readings. Take care of yourself. I think there was a question on a missing case or a children's case I wanted to ask. But I'm thinking to do a reading on Linear Jack because I have some things that I'd like to possibly share. So stay blessed, everyone. Take care. Have a beautiful week for the upcoming week. I do hope you had a beautiful Valentine's. Some of you might be in that Valentino lost right now. Take care. Bye for now.